Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel. This is my first booktube video outside of my introduction booktube newbie tag. And I'm doing Historathon Q4 2025. And Historathon is a year-long reading event that's split into 4 quarters of the year. The first quarter is Prehistory to 500 CE. Quarter 2 is 500 CE to 1500 CE. And quarter 3 is 1500 to 1820. And then quarter 4 is 1820 to modern times, current times. And so quarter 1 is from January to March. And then quarter 2 is April to June. Quarter 3 is July to September. And quarter 4 started just recently here in October, and all goes through to the end of the year in December. And so I'm going to do a pile of possibilities video. And basically a pile of possibilities is just the books that I have not read that fall into quarter 4 of Historathon. And I guess I'm just going to showcase these and let you guys know that I'm reading these. And so it's going to be hopefully decent. I try to pull some information about these books, and yeah, I don't know too much about them, obviously because I haven't read them, but let's just start it off. And so my first pick is an Eastern history book. I wanted to expand to the Eastern, the East of history, because a lot of history is very Eurocentric, and there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone has their own interests. I just noticed that for myself, I was reading a ton of European history books, European descendant, Americas, stuff like that. And so I was like, let's turn my gaze to the East a little bit. And so the first one is Korea, A New History of South and North by Victor D. Cha and Ramon Pacheco Pardo. And this is from Yale Press. And it was published in 2023 and it's 367 pages total. And so that's total. That's not including that is including end matter, and with a lot of these books there's a ton of end matter in it. And so with this one, basically it's, with it being so recent, it covers quite a bit of the last, 60, 70 years. It's basically starts out in when Korea was a united country before it was split into the North and South. And I guess this goes over kind of like what Korea was before the split, just briefly. It's very geographical. So basically, it has a lot to do with how beneficial the location of Korea is to the neighboring countries. And, it goes from the occupation of Japan, from the Russian-Japan War in the early 1900s, and it kind of charts through what that was like. And then it goes into when, after the World War II, after the occupation between the Russians and the Americans after the war. And that's kind of where the split started. The North was more or less occupied by the Russians, the Soviets, and the southern side was occupied by the Americans. And I believe what happened was, not what happened, but the split was, there was just so much difference in ideology between America and Russia. You have the communist state of the USSR, and then you have the democratic liberalism of the US in the 1940s. And they ended up leaving, but it wasn't much of a, it was kind of like a we'll be back type of thing. And then the Cold War happened and all of that scenario, and then it gets into the Kims for the North, and what that was like. And basically, yeah, it goes through how that all happened. And it's very interesting to me because I don't know much about this at all. I don't know much about Korea or, how the split happened, or I don't know much about the Cold War either, or even really World War II. I don't have too much knowledge in this area at all. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. I don't know if we'll get to it. That's the interesting thing about this format is, I mean, I have 7 books here. This is one of 7. And so I know I won't get to them all. I hope to get to 3. And that's the benefit of Historathon. It kind of forces you to, I don't know, just pick what you want to do. And so, yeah, there's that. Korea. All right. My next one is The Party and the People, Chinese Politics in the 21st Century by Bruce J. Dixon. This is by Princeton Press. And this was released in, 2021. And this has just over 300 pages with end matter. So, including the appendix and notes and all of that. So, this is another, gaze to the east. I wanted to try to get one of these in. There's one more after this for Eastern history. And this one is very contemporary. Being released so recent in 2021, Bruce goes basically from the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, all the way up until now. And basically, it asks questions like, how does China choose its leaders? How does the government of China relate to its citizens? What does religion look like in China? I know that China has specific allowed religions, state religions. I know they're an atheist country, like that's their the government's proclaimed state religion is not religion, it's atheism. But they allow certain religions for its people. And so it's just fascinating. And I think it goes through somewhat of like an entry level political science type of situation in this book. And once again, I have no background in political science, never took a class for it or anything like that. So that interests me quite a bit and how that works. Yeah. And so apparently it starts in 1949 and goes all the way up until when this book was published in 2021. So looking forward to this one. This one's higher on my list out of these chosen. So, all right. Here's the next one, which is The Modern Spirit of Asia, the Spiritual and the Secular in China and India by Peter van der Veer. And this is also published by Princeton Press. And this one came out in 2013 and has 296 pages with end matter. So a little bit shorter than that if you're just looking for text. And this one is a little bit deeper in the cross-sectional studies of religion, government, secularism between China and India. And what Peter's trying to do here is he's trying to look at how there's the narrative of Western countries that suggests that China and India and some other Asian countries are highly derivative of Western countries. And Peter's trying to show that, hey, that's not the case. That's not, like, yes, there's influence, but it's not highly derivative. Because, for example, China, like I just mentioned, China is more secular in regards to its government. It's professed atheist country, whereas India, with its religion and how its religious intellectuals were, their nationalism is highly rooted in religion. And so at least that's what Peter suggests in this. And so it kind of gets into that on how, if it's so derivative of the West, if these countries are so derivative of the West, then how can these divergences be so apparent? and there's quite a bit more here. It starts with 19th century imperial history, Western imperial history, obviously. Um, and yeah, I think this one's going to be really interesting. I know that Peter Van der Veer is an outspoken proponent of comparative studies, and I think that's what he's trying to do here, which is exciting. It's always exciting to see the not just the divide between the West and the East, or as they're called now, um, but to see how they have influenced each other, especially recently, because globalism. So yeah, there's that. All right. So now we are turning our gaze back west. So this one is Liberalism Against Itself: Cold War Intellectuals and the Making of Our Times by Samuel Moyn. Pretty sure that's how you say that. If not, I apologize. This one is by Yale Press. And this one was published in 2023. And with and matter, it is 240 pages. So I just want to give a quick shout out. This book was gifted to me by a friend. He's a fellow booktuber. His name is John. I'll link his channel below. It's John David. And it was one I wanted to read, and he gifted this to me. So thank you for that, John. This one's really interesting because it kind of goes. It gives a survey of liberalism before the Cold War. Essentially the Enlightenment version of liberalism, which was very pro reason, pro rationality, and what the Cold War intellectuals saw in Enlightenment liberalism was, hey, this isn't exactly working. There's totalitarianism, there's nuclear war, potential for nuclear war. There's this isolation of people and just all sorts of issues. And so what Cold War intellectuals, what they tried to do was kind of reform liberalism into, hey, basically what we need to do is we cannot throw away individual freedom, no matter what, at all costs. And basically, and these intellectuals, just to name a few, are Karl Popper, Gertrude Himmelfarb, Judith Sklar, Lionel Trilling, and Isaiah Berlin, which I have a couple of them on my shelves. I haven't read them yet. Very influential. However, this book kind of goes into why that we should not be following the Cold War intellectuals. I don't know exactly what his conclusions are, but he does have some solutions in here to move forward with. And this is really interesting to me because a lot of liberal critiques are from the Marxist camp, and those are interesting in themselves. Don't get me wrong, but it's always interesting to see critique from within its own camp, and that's what Samuel Moyn's trying to do. He wants to save liberalism from itself, essentially. And so I'm looking forward to see what that's about. All right, so this next one is a chunker. So this one's The Soviet Century: Archaeology of a Lost World by Karl Schlugel. I don't know how to say that. This one is also from Princeton Press, and this one was published in 2023 and has 928 pages. And this book has so much in it when I was trying to research for this video that honestly I can't really do it justice. So I'm going to just read what the Princeton website said for it, because it's a chunker, right? It's 928 pages. So let me just read this. It's a museum of and travel guide to the Soviet past. The Soviet century explores in evocative detail both the largest and smallest aspects of life in the USSR, from the Gulag, the planned economy, the railway system, and the steel city of Magnitogorsk to cookbooks, military medals, prison camp tattoos, and the ubiquitous perfume red Moscow. The book examines iconic aspects of Soviet life, including long queues outside shops, cramped communal apartments, parades, and the Lenin Mausoleum, as well as less famous but important parts of the USSR, including the Great Soviet Encyclopedia, the Voice of Radio Moscow, graffiti, and even the typical toilet, which became a pervasive social and cultural topic. Throughout, the book shows how Soviet life simultaneously combined utopian fantasies, humdrum routine, and a pervasive terror symbolized by the Lubyanka, then as now as the headquarters of the secret police. All right, so as you can see, that's quite a bit. I just can't. There's so much in this that I just feel like I couldn't do it justice. I'm really excited for this. I kind of want to start like a USSR project, starting kind of with Lenin and going through, the Bolshevik Revolution and Stalin and all the way up into the Cold War. So I think this is my type of history. I love just kind of day-to-day life stuff quite a bit. I like leaders too. I'm not a huge fan of military history, to be honest. I haven't gotten into it. I know people like it, but it's just not really for me so far. But this is very intriguing to me, and this one's higher on the list for reading this quarter for sure. So, all right, there's that. Okay, so the next one is, this person really doesn't need much of an introduction, I feel like, but obviously, in case you're not aware of the father of psychoanalysis, the creator of it, Sigmund Freud. This is Freud, A Life for Our Time by Peter Gay. And this one's Norton. This one's published by Norton, and it was published in 1988. It has 810 pages with end matter. So, Peter Gay is a fairly famous historian. He passed away, I think, in 2015, but he has quite a lot of books on the Enlightenment, and he has a two-book series on the Enlightenment. I have another one of his books on Freud. It's The Freud Reader, where he just has a selections of Freud's primary writings. So he's obviously a big fan of Freud. And this is just a biography. It's somewhat of a intellectual biography where it goes through his thoughts. Obviously, Freud is an intellectual giant. Whether he was right or wrong, his influence is undeniable for the 20th century. I've heard that in regards to influence of the 20th century, you have four towering people, and it was Darwin, Nietzsche, Freud, and Karl Marx. And so, like I said, you don't have to agree with them, but their influence is undeniable in who we are as a society in the West today. So, I'm looking forward to this one quite a bit. It's quite a chunk or two, but this one I'm actually going to read. I'm reading this with a friend, so this one will be on here, and I'll try to make a review of it if I can. I want to get into Freud. I have a Freud project coming, so there's Peter Gay, A Life for Our Time. All right, another big guy. These last three have been really big. The Greatest Benefit to Mankind, A Medical History of Humanity by Roy Porter. And so this one is also published by Norton and was published in 1997 and has 831 pages with end matter. And so, he goes, like it says, A Medical History of Humanity. He starts, I believe, I looked at the beginning a little bit, and he kind of starts with as far back as we can go with Homo sapiens and stuff, but I would assume that he spends a decent amount of time with the Greeks, Hippocratic, all that stuff. yeah, but and then he basically the beginning here. He gets the Enlightenment on page 245, and that's kind of like when the scientific revolution was, and so. Which makes sense. The acceleration of science from the Enlightenment till now is huge. So I'm looking forward to this. It's a kind of a broad survey. Obviously, it's a huge topic. So fitting it in with 800 pages is quite the task. Yeah, this one I'm really excited for. I'm definitely reading this one. This is the book I've been most excited for quarter four. And yeah, this one's awesome. I hope it's awesome. Sorry. All right, and I just wanted to give a shout out to Vin. His name is Vin from Revenant Reads. He started Historathon, and it's been great for me. This is my second year doing it, and yeah, it's been really good for me because it really has broadened my perspective and broadened my reading. I wasn't really into history, and then I came across his stuff. And there's a bunch of co-hosts. I'll link them down in the description as well. They're all great people. There's also a Discord to join. That's how I met quite a few people on BookTube, and they're all awesome people, kind, helpful, they give you recommendations. So, Vin is the creator. That's why I wanted to give him a shout out. He's the creator of Historathon. It's been going on, I think, 3 to 4 years now. So, it's an awesome event, and should hopefully get you reading some history. I think history is an awesome topic and genre for everyone. So, yeah, thank you for watching this. This is my first book review video, not even a review, book haul or anything like that. So, bear with me. I'm recording on a phone, so that's probably why I might be quiet. So I apologize for that. I'm just trying to see how this goes. If I like it, then I'll upgrade my equipment and my scenery and stuff like that. So thank you for watching this, and I hope everyone has a good one. Thank you. Bye.